Kia ora and good morning, and thank you very much, Howard, for your introduction, and thank you to Motu for their opportunity to speak here today. I want to especially thank Susie Kerr and Hugh MacDonald for all the work you've done in organising this event today. I bring you the best wishes of Nick Smith, the past Minister of Environment, and for Amy Adams, our new Environmental Minister. I'd also like to acknowledge the support of the Symposium sponsors, Motu Economic and Public Policy Research, the Land and Water Forum, and NIWA. And also the Ministry of Science and Innovation for funding this symposium and for much of the research that you will hear today. And in this regard, I'd also like to recognise the contributions of the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and the Ministry for the Environment. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge all the speakers and the guests that are here today. It's wonderful to see so many of you here with so much to offer on the subject of water. Howard made the point that water quality is the most topical environmental issue of our time. And if you think about it, 3 years ago, we probably would have said that climate change took the top spot. And although climate change is equally and still important, I think water quality, in my view, is now surpassing that as New Zealand's #1 environmental issue. We all know that New Zealand is richly blessed with fresh water, but there's absolutely no doubt that we've been too casual about how we've managed it in the past. And it's clear that we now need a more sophisticated approach to freshwater management. And I'm pleased that our awareness of the problem is growing, and that in doing so, it's important, I don't think, to beat ourselves up too much. We should remember that by international standards, our water quality is still very good. However, that is no excuse for inaction. We can no longer ignore the fact that water quality is deteriorating in some of our most vulnerable catchments, and especially in lowland areas. And as Howard said, we have experience of that in Canterbury. I welcome such events as this for their contribution to the body of knowledge on our water quality issues. And I also welcome the Parliamentary Commissioner's recent report on understanding the science of water quality. And I think it's this level of public interest in water quality grows that initiatives like this are extremely important, because it's a complex issue. We take a lot of the understanding for granted, but it's complex, and we want it to be accessible to as many people as possible. Now, I'd just like to have a discussion about the government's approach to addressing our water quality issues. Our approach has been to focus not just on fresh water, but also to apply what we call our blue-green principles across the range of pressing environmental issues that we face. And there's 4 key elements to these principles. We need to marry good environmental policy with good economic policy. We need to underpin our decisions with good science, and I doubt if there'll be anyone who'd debate that here today. And we need to move from highly polarised arguments. Now, for example, 5 years ago, environmental groups were talking about dirty daring, and farming groups were accusing environmentalists of committing economic treason. But with the success of the Land and Water Forum, we're now seeing a very different world, and where former adversaries are now working together and constructively to agree on recommendations for the uptake of further freshwater reforms. The 4th key element of the blue-green principle is the need to make greater use of market instruments rather than just relying on regulation to improve environmental outcomes. And that last point segues me neatly into what you're discussing today. In New Zealand, we tend to be very pragmatic. We understand that there's no magic bullet to solve our freshwater quality issues. And the government's view is that we need a range of tools in our toolbox. That means we're going to need tighter regulation, better education and information, robust science, additional government funding, and new tools like economic instruments. And this message is being reinforced by what we've been hearing from the Land and Water Forum. As you'll be well aware, the Land and Water Forum was a groundbreaking experiment involving the use of a collaborative process to develop a consensus-based view on what's needed to improve New Zealand's freshwater management. I think we're all delighted at the progress that we've seen from the Land and Water Forum and the fact that they've found agreement on many problems and delivered 53 high-level recommendations in September 2010. To build on that momentum, late last year, Ministers Smith and Carter asked them to do some more work, and as a result, the next steps of our fresh start for freshwater reforms are well underway. These reforms include collaborative policy work through the Land and Water Forum, ongoing decisions with the iwi leaders to clarify Māori rights and interests in freshwater, and the implementation of the Irrigation Acceleration Fund and the Fresh Start for Freshwater Clean-up Fund. It's pleasing to see former adversaries now working constructively together through the LAWF process to develop high-level policy recommendations. The latest freshwater policy work of the LAWF is going ahead in 2 phases. To mark the end of Phase 1, LAWF is due to report back any day now, and what's needed to put in place strengthened, limited-based approach to freshwater. The government expects that their report will focus on the respective roles of local and central government for setting limits for freshwater quality and quantity, and also on governance and decision-making, including how collaboration might be more widely used. In Phase 2, the LAWF is to report back by the end of September on how to manage water within limits. And this phase will also look at tools for allocation and how we can provide incentives for efficient water use and how to manage the effect of land use on water. Officials are also considering how the freshwater management reform work may be relevant and useful in our wider resource management system reforms, which are occurring in parallel. A commitment to the collaborative approach is bringing New Zealanders together to build durable and widely supported solutions in a way that a government can't do on its own. I'd just like to make some note of the work of the Landcare Trust, which can perhaps be seen as a microcosm of this approach working as it should be. The Trust is successfully bringing communities together to develop catchment-wide solutions to their freshwater issues. And I'd like to acknowledge the Trust's valuable support of the government's priorities around freshwater management. The Trust has an excellent track record in delivering practical outcomes that support and promote initiatives to improve freshwater quality. And in recognising its ability, the government has now doubled the Trust's funding from $400,000 to $800,000. And this is enabling the Trust to continue and expand its work promoting sustainable resource management and is underpinned by good science, education and collaboration. The work of both LAWF and Landcare have contributed to New Zealand's rising global reputation for innovative approaches to bringing together successful economic and environment policy. The government sees the expansion of market instruments as a key tool in getting better environmental outcomes. It's another area where we can be innovative. Economic instruments must be considered as part of the policy toolbox we need to create, which includes a working environment that reduces conflict and costs and provides flexibility in the way we manage our precious freshwater resource. New Zealand is already successfully using economic instruments in a variety of activities occurring in the environmental space. For example, the waste levy, that's encouraging recycling and better waste management, while the emissions trading scheme puts a price on carbon to encourage businesses to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. We've also introduced incentives to encourage the use of electric cars, solar water heating, heat pumps, and home insulation. And from September this year, the offset rule applies to the new Air Quality National Environment Standard for new industrial consents in polluted airsheds. This means that you can build a new factory in a polluted area where the air quality limits are breached if you reduce emissions from other sources by an equivalent amount. Another example of the market in which New Zealand is getting very positive international attention is Lake Taupo's nutrient trading scheme. This particular scheme was discussed very favourably recently in the latest OECD water report, Water Quality in Agriculture, Meeting the Policy Challenge. And I hear you'll be hearing a lot more about Lake Taupo and its nutrient trading scheme later today. Suffice to say, the Lake Taupo Protection Trust is using nitrogen trading to achieve a 20% reduction in nitrogen leaching by 2018. This amounts to 183 tonnes of nitrogen annually that is not getting into Lake Taupo, and the aim is to maintain the lake's existing water quality and reduce the effect of the predicted future higher nitrogen flows. The Trust has also pioneered innovative deals involving farm and forestry conversion and the subsequent sale of carbon credits from these forests, and this has been heralded internationally as a major win for the Waikato economy and for the environment, and that will be a very interesting thing to listen to later today. This has led to significant gains for farmers, allowing them to continue farming and to diversify their risk by becoming part-time foresters. It is economically efficient because a natural asset has been given a value in a way that tips the balance in favour of less polluting land uses. The achievements in the Taupo region support the government's decision to join the Environment Bay of Plenty to fund research in the development of nutrient trading scheme for Lake Rotorua. I'd just like to make a note of the Global Green Economy Index. We are a nation whose prosperity depends on our environmentally based industry. For that reason, this government is committed to providing leadership in finding an appropriate balance between the economic and environmental outcomes. And it's worth noting that for 2 years running, we have ranked number 1 on the Global Green Economy Index. The index analyses the performance and perception of 27 countries, assessed on leadership, domestic policy, clean tech investment, and green tourism. And the index says, and I quote, New Zealand's best green performance in 2011 suggests that prioritising green in the political and economic spheres can transform smaller nations into global sector leaders. And this is exactly where New Zealand should aim to be, a global sector leader where environmental values are seen as intrinsic to our economic development. So to conclude, as part of its leadership role, the government has been fostering a collaborative approach so that we can develop widely supported and durable solutions to our water quality issues. The time has come for New Zealanders to work together to discuss and devise the inevitable trade-offs that we can all live with, and to get the environmental and the economic results that New Zealand wants and needs. This is challenging, but we've already shown the world through the success of the LAWF that we can lead the way by working together to reduce red tape, delays and litigation. I think we need to continue to build on this so that we are well positioned to achieve the standards of water quality that ultimately will benefit us all. The government is really interested in what you're talking about today and the outcomes of this event, and I trust the ideas for policy innovations will be fed back through LAWF by your members. I want to thank you again and wish you every success for your symposium. I think it's going to be a very interesting and enlightening day. Thank you.